Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today I'm going to be talking about a new game, which was, I don't know if it was announced or not. It was teased. It could be real, it could be fake, it may be misdirection, but I like to believe it's real, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So, the game that we're talking about is, first off, the footage you see behind you is actually from a classic, an old-timey classic by Sid Meier called Sid Meier's Gettysburg. And the reason I'm showing this footage is because I have figured out how to make it work on my Windows 10 machine, and I'm probably going to stream this on my Twitch channel tomorrow, or actually tonight. You're viewing this on Friday, so I'll probably be streaming this tonight, starting around 10:30 Central, somewhere between 10:30 and 11 o'clock Central Standard Time on my Twitch channel. I'll throw a link in the description. The reason I'm showing that footage here is the game announcement that I'm going to be talking about is from the developers, Game Labs, which I've featured a lot on my channel, their game Ultimate General Civil War. Ultimate General Civil War draws a lot from Sid Meier's Gettysburg. Sid Meier's Gettysburg was this old wargaming classic which came out in the late 1990s. I think it was either 1998 or 1999. Maybe 97. It's somewhere in those 3 years. Sid Meier's Gettysburg came out. Made by the illustrious Sid Meier, developer of or creator of the Civilization series, Pirates, among others. But Game Labs built this game called Ultimate General Gettysburg, first off, a couple of years ago. Then just a year and a half ago or so, Ultimate General Civil War came out. And since then, nothing has happened. And it's a little over a year since Civil War sort of came out, final version, and they've stopped really releasing patches except for a few hot fixes for bugs. And they posted something a couple of months ago on their Facebook channel, basically saying like, "Hey, what's the next game you want us to play? What would you like to see modeled?" And since then, they've been really quiet. Not much has come out, and they really haven't said or done anything until yesterday. Yesterday morning, 5 in the morning or so, on the Game Labs Twitter, which is Reformed Gamers. I don't know where they got that Twitter handle, but at Reformed Gamers, which is the official Game Labs Twitter, they posted this tweet. I'll go ahead and pull out of the game, show you the tweet. The tweet that they posted is, when you are really not sure if you prefer HMS Renowned or HMS Irresistible, you design both. And then, below that, it says Ultimate Admiral, which I don't know. Is that a new game announcement? Are they announcing Ultimate Admiral, the next in the Ultimate series of games? Or are they just sort of teasing us here? I mean, these do appear to be models. The images here you can see do appear to be models of pre-Dreadnought battleships. So I've seen a couple of people, actually I think one or two people commented, World War I. But these are pre-Dreadnought ships, right? These are battleships from before the World War I era. Unless I'm mistaken, unless they're armored cruisers. I don't think they are, though. HMS Renown was definitely a battleship. She had 10-inch guns. She was actually a colonial ship. Or it was designed, I believe, originally for South American countries. The British Navy bought it, and they were kind of designed for colonial service. They had 10-inch guns instead of 12-inch guns, which was unusual for the British. Anyway, long story short, these appear to be pre-Dreadnought battleships, and that makes me kind of curious. What is this game? Is Ultimate Admiral really a game, or was this just sort of a joking Twitter? If it was a joking Twitter, why do they have models for these ships? To me, it seems like an initial tease without officially saying, here is what the next game is. It seems like they're saying, hey, Ultimate Admiral, and yeah, get people talking. Now, part of me wonders, they did a poll again on their Facebook page asking, would you want to see the American Revolution modeled? Would you want to see the Napoleonic Wars modeled? Maybe this is just another way of testing the waters. Maybe they're posting this to see what people's reaction is, to see if Ultimate Admiral might be a direction they want to go, if people seem excited about it. I don't know. What I will say is, if they were to do an Ultimate Admiral game, I think it could be tremendous. And that's because one of the most appealing and interesting things about the Ultimate General game is the way you can click on a unit and drag its icon to where you want it to go. It has this little arrow, follow it, and then it just kind of has this old sort of aesthetic that feels a little bit like a Atlas type of a look. That whole map design, the way you interact with your units, the click and drag for your units. And I was thinking to myself, that would be pretty darn effective for naval combat. Click on a ship, drag the course you want it to follow. Maybe it's an arc. Maybe other ships are in its division and they'll follow it in the same way that regiments would follow a brigade's order in Ultimate General, although I guess brigades are kind of the smallest unit, but you know what I mean. And you can do those types of commands in Ultimate General Civil War. So, you know, you could have units arc around and use these sort of arrows and this sort of click and drag, and you could have, you know, destroyers and battleships. It would be a very different game. It would be very, very different than what they've done before. But I think the interesting thing, I think one of the most appealing things about Ultimate General Civil War was this army management aspect. You raise troops, you equip troops, you send them into battle. And I think one of the things that when they had their poll about Ultimate General American Revolution or Ultimate General Napoleon, one of the things I thought about was like, all right, you could definitely do that from a battlefield perspective, and I hope they do, but there's not a lot of development of technology during either of those conflicts. And the Civil War campaign, and again, it depends how they want to design it. If they want to go more tactical focused, then Napoleon and Rev War could do really well. Napoleon has the advantages of scale. But if they want to go a layer deep, if they really want to double down on this army building and army creating aspect of the game, I think an Admiral game has a lot more appeal and interest, because during the Civil War, the technologies were rapidly evolving. You see a transition away from traditional muskets at the beginning of the war with the 1842 U.S. smoothbore into rifled muskets and into sort of the early repeating weapons. And so there's this clear development of technology. You've got dozens of different rifles to choose from to equip your forces with. You need to raise brigades. You need to worry about organization. You need to worry about training, political things, getting money to raise more troops, to buy more guns. It's a somewhat complex in-between battle mechanic that then makes the battles that much richer, because you're a little bit tied to your troops, and your army composition is what you designed. There's some historical components if you're playing the historical battles where you don't do that. There's some historical influence on the early campaign where you haven't had time to really build your forces out. But by the end of the campaign, that army you're fighting with is very much the army that you have groomed and kept and replaced casualties for and upgraded their weapons from the Springfield to the Henry, etc., etc., etc. And if you do that from a naval game perspective, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. There isn't that same opportunity for a Napoleonic game. Okay, you can recruit your troops, great. You can organize your troops into divisions, into brigades, and then you can worry about having to, increase spending on organization so you can build bigger and bigger brigades and divisions and corps. Fine, that piece is all the same. But you don't have the evolution of technology. If I'm fighting as Napoleon in 1805 or 1815, crazily enough, the muskets that Napoleon's using are the exact same. They're not technologically advancing in the same way. Pretty much the same thing for artillery. There's a few options. Do you want howitzers? Do you want smoothbores? And that's about it. Okay, so you've got sort of two options. There's different weight calibers. You have to factor that in, so there's a little bit more. But there's not that, all right, I need to move from a smoothbore gun to a heavy smoothbore gun to a rifled gun to a repeating gun with like a Whitworth. There isn't that technological development that the American Civil War has during the Napoleonic Wars. And so it would potentially make this whole army organization piece, which in my opinion was one of the most compelling pieces of the game. Tactical combat was interesting, but it frankly doesn't do anything that a game like an older game like Sid Meier's Gettysburg doesn't do really effectively. The moving, the map, the art, it's all very, very, very well done. But to me, the charm, and again, this is just me. I'm sure that I'm not speaking for everyone when I say many people probably vastly prefer the battles to the army organization. I think I'm a little bit of a quartermaster at heart, so I enjoy that. But when you look at the army organization piece, to me, in Napoleon or Revolutionary War, unless they introduce some new mechanics or ways of doing things, that element of the game would seem a little bit more hollow. And so the really cool thing about a potential Ultimate Admiral game is that if you look at, let's say, I don't know what period of time they're looking at, but given they've got pre-Dreadnought models here, I would presume you might have like 1890 to 1920, almost like a Rule the Waves type game. You start with pre-Dreadnought battleships. You have to potentially, for example, if you're playing as the Germans, maybe you design ships with their 9.4-inch guns, then you upgrade to 12-inch guns, then perhaps you upgrade to dreadnoughts. Now, it's different in that you're replacing old ships, but there's upgrades, too, that can be done within an existing ship structure. Improving fire control and improving armor, adding radio to the ships, right? Because a lot of these ships in this period of time were still communicating via signal flags and whatnot. So to me, like a game that occurs over a decade or two, which looks at the naval arms race, maybe between the Anglo-Allied or the British and the Germans, you could build this fleet up. You could really craft this navy, and then you could fight it. Now, the obvious drawback for this is, what are the battles? Is it just World War I? In that case, if you compress it there, then some of the the advantages for army organization and the changing technology and the constant upgrades goes away. Some of it, there definitely is a transition that's occurring at the start of the war to the end of the war when you're starting to see super dreadnoughts, which are a big advance, and you're starting to see some technology improving around aircraft and other things like that. So there certainly is a lot of technological development, certainly more so than during the Napoleonic Wars during World War I. But then you also, I don't know. I think it would be really cool to almost make it like an Ultimate General meets Rule the Waves, where I've got to create this navy, I've got to build it up, and then I've got to fight it. And then, I can take the lessons I learned in those conflicts and those battles and those wars, and then reapply it, redesign my navy, and focus on something else. So to me, like, if this is a thing, if Ultimate Admiral is a thing, what I'm really hoping for is, can you take Ultimate General and then do all the things that Rule the Waves does well, but make it, in an Ultimate General type universe where the battles are a little bit more intuitive, it's a little bit more straightforward, a little bit less detailed probably. You're not going to have, I would imagine, you're not going to be laying out your actual armor belts or things like that, some of the interesting pieces from Rule the Waves, but maybe a slightly less groggy, but a little bit more visually appealing, a little bit more intuitive Rule the Waves. Can Rule the Waves and Ultimate General have a baby? Is that what Ultimate Admiral is? I don't know. We don't know anything. All I know is they posted this on Twitter, and I about freaked out because I saw it and I was like, whoa, holy crap. And I started to think about it, and I was like, all right, there are these things here which I think might make it in some ways a better choice than Ultimate General. It would also, frankly, tell us, hey, these guys aren't just sitting on their laurels. They're not going to necessarily keep doing the same old tried and true. It would be a big divergence, They did Ultimate General Gettysburg. That was a tactical battle, single battle, but with sort of a dynamic campaign. They pulled that back, and then they brought out Ultimate General Civil War, a little bit less of a dynamic campaign. The campaign itself is a little bit more scripted, but a lot more flexibility and openness to managing your forces. And then if they went nautical, oh man, that would be really interesting. I was talking to a friend the other day about how I was a little bit disappointed in Game Lab's game Naval Action, which is a naval game which they've made, which is kind of like an MMO meets Age of Sail game. So it's like got Age of Sail sort of tactical naval combat, but it's really fundamentally at its core almost like a Port Royal or I don't know if Pirates is a good example, but in like an MMO world where everything you're meeting are human ships, more or less. There's player verse environment as well. And I was really kind of disappointed with that, because really what I was looking for, I wanted to, manage my ship to a certain extent, but I really just wanted to fight tactical battles. I didn't want to sail around on this massive MMO-type world. And if I am going to sail around in an open-world environment, that could be cool, but I don't want to be doing it as one ship. I want it to be part of a navy. I want it to be part of a bigger war. I want to be able to play it at my own pace. I don't want it to be grindy. And maybe that's what Ultimate Admiral could be. Maybe it could be like a dynamic campaign in the North Sea, or maybe even globally. Maybe it could be something like Rule the Waves, where you can fight a number of different countries, a number of different theaters, and you can build and craft your navy as you see fit, and then fight using sort of the intuitive and user-friendly way that Ultimate General allows you to fight. And I don't think anyone would say, like, Ultimate General Civil War, when you compare it to something like Scourge of War, sure, it's not as groggy. It's not as hardcore as something like Scourge of War. But at least in terms of the tactical combat, I would argue the army organization, there's quite a bit of depth, some min-maxing there. It's pretty challenging. You need to know what you're doing. But I just see so much opportunity for an Ultimate Admirals game. I just see a lot of opportunity. I want more tactical naval combat. It's a little bit more, I think, Three Moves Ahead has talked about this before, where they're saying, well, naval games are difficult to make interesting because there's no terrain, right? Like, the terrain is the sea, and sometimes you have weather, but other than that, you don't have to take that hill, right? But I trust these guys could figure out a way to make it interesting. And I don't think it's like it's a World War I game that has some naval units, because it's called Ultimate Admiral. So to me, if it's Ultimate Admiral, the focus is going to be Navy, not land units. But I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to tease us. Maybe they're just trying to judge our responses. In any event, I don't usually do like game announcement videos for something that we literally have two not even screenshots. We've got like two 3D models in a single tweet. But it caught my eye. It made me go, wow. And I wanted to talk about it for a little bit. So let me know your guys' thoughts. What do you think about Ultimate Admiral? Do you think this is actually going to happen? Or do you think this is just some sort of marketing test the waters? Are you interested in this? What would excite you about a nautical Ultimate General type game? That's all I got, because that's all we literally know, and I'm doing a lot of speculating in here as well. With that being said, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and sign out. I just want to remind you, this evening, 10:30, 11 o'clock Central Standard Time, somewhere in that range, I'm going to be streaming Sid Meier's Gettysburg on my Twitch channel. The link is in the description. I hope you'll join me for some classic retro Sid Meier's action. I haven't been playing or streaming or really posting videos on here all that much over the last month, really. I kind of took a week off, about 2 weeks off, then I posted a video or two, then I took like another couple of days off. Honestly, I've been struggling a bit to find some motivation to figure out what I want to play next. When I finished Ultimate General Civil War, I kind of, from a channel perspective, I tried a few other things out. Field of Glory, I played a fair bit about that, but I kind of burned through that. Bombing the Reich is interesting, and I'm still kind of playing it slowly on my own, but it's one of those games that's hard to make regular videos on and keeping it interesting. I'm really looking for that next thing, like what's the next piece that I'm going to find, and I've just been taking some time to kind of just relax. I mean, the last year and a half on this channel, it's been like a video every day, and I think I've just needed a little bit of time to kind of step away. But I do want to really get into into Sid Meier's Gettysburg here. We may be streaming for 3 or 4 hours. We may only be streaming for an hour or two. I guess in my ideal world, I'm thinking like, yeah, we're gonna play through a whole campaign as the Union, and then we'll stream another night and we'll play through it as the Confederates and whatnot. But I don't know. If you can't make the stream, I'll chop it up. I'm not sure, depending on how long the scenarios are. It's a little bit of a quick game. I'll either post individual battles or I will chop them up into like 30-minute increments with sort of cross battles. We'll see. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Let me know your thoughts, and until next time, this is the Historical Gamer, as always, saying once again, thank you for tuning in, and until next time, I'm out.